Ah yes, the Russian Empire, the land of rural people and serfs. Truly prosperous. And one man behind it all was Tsar Nicholas II, or Nicholas II for short. He was the Emperor of Russia at the time. But how did he get into this position, and would later have his end in the most brutal way possible? So the story starts in St. Petersburg, one of the biggest cities in Russia, where Nicholas would be born. His father was Alexander III of Russia, the heir next in line to the throne of Russia. Nicholas's mother was Maria Fyodorovna, the Dagmar of Denmark, which makes Nicholas from Danish descent. When Alexander II, Nicholas's grandfather, passed away, Nicholas's father, Alexander III, took the throne and did a few funny things like persecuting and doing occasional oppression. You know, your typical 20th century monarchy things. Alexander III also refused to give Nicholas teachings to be a leader, which will be a crucial mistake later on. And then Alexander III died. After hearing that Nicholas will be taking the throne after his father, Nicholas literally said this to his brother-in-law. What is going to happen to me and all of Russia? Which just shows that Nicholas II is extremely under the pan and his hands are just like shivering at this point. Nicholas also hosted a festival which killed over 1,000 people, which is a sign to bad things could come for his reign. Upon taking the throne, a few Simstivals came to him and asked for power in the government, Peter Pretty please, and Nicholas just straight up said no to the people. Now this is how to run a country for sure. Then a small tiny pretty insignificant country called Japan is like starting beef with Mother Russia. So Nicholas decided to declare war on Japan after that. And Nicholas was so confident that Russia would win that most people called him bluff. Well, did he win? Did his hopes and dreams of a victory against the Japanese be achieved? Well, no. And even at times he thought he was winning, he wasn't. And it was quite the opposite, in fact. This humiliated the Russian Empire and immediately sent shockwaves to Europe on how a small nation defeated and won against the Russian Empire. But another crisis was happening back in Russia. Back in Petersburg, a group of unarmed demonstrators took to the streets to simply give a position to Nicholas. And in response, the armed guards shot the people in the crowd, including Father Capon, who was the leader of all of this. Even though Nicholas didn't order the guards to fire, he still got blamed for this and his reputation plummeted. Opposition still rose up and the 1950 revolution had just begun. Nicholas was not quite fond of it, to the point where he kind of got annoyed by the protest. And to make matters worse, Alexei Nikolaevich, Nicholas's son and heir to the throne, had an illness, which was hemophilia. And doctors from all over Russia said that they cannot treat him. Then a mysterious man named Grigory Rasputin was called into the royal palace to heal Nicholas's son, and he allegedly saved him with his God-healing, Jesus-loving powers. So Rasputin was kind of close to the family after that. Then, World War I broke out, and the Russian army was not prepared at all. And with the alliances kicking in, it seemed that Russia is pulling into the war. The Russian army was also quite outdated and has far less equipment than the Germans did. Later in the war of attrition started, which further destabilized the Russian economy and the people. With defeat after defeat, the Russian war support quickly drained day by day, and the people are organizing strikes and protests. Back in St. Petersburg, Petrograd, because we renamed it, high government officials were getting tired of Rasputin, a random guy like out of nowhere, influencing and potentially destroying the nation, and they planned to assassinate him. Felix Yusupov, husband of Nicholas's niece, invited to his palace and made him eat poison. And when that didn't work, he shot Rasputin. And when that didn't work, he dumped Rasputin into the river and drowning him. So that's the end for Rasputin, I guess. Nicholas at the time also thought it would be cool to be a commander in the war, so he put himself as the commander-in-chief while ruling Russia, which was collapsing. And as you guessed, Russia was also losing the war. The people then organized strikes and riots all over Russia. A slogan also appeared, which was from the idea of a communist and a pretty small, insignificant guy called Vladimir Lenin, which was down with a German woman, down with Protopopov, down with the war, down with the Tsar. Nicholas' cabinet urged him to come back to the capital and to maybe abdicate for the greater good of Russia. When he abdicated, he wanted his son, Alexei, to be the next emperor, but doctors told him that his son won't live that long, His brother, Michael Alexandrovich, had been given the choice to take the throne, but simply refused. Nicholas was also in the debate of possibly getting exiled to Britain. Nobody wants to get exiled to Britain. Then it was decided that Nicholas would be put on house arrest at the Alexander Palace, but would later be removed numerous places and ended up in the city of Yekaterinburg, and was imprisoned in the Ipatiev house. Then the Russian Civil War broke out with the communist and white armies fighting. Then, in July 1918, a group of Bolsheviks led by Yakov Yurovsky came to the Ipatiev house and executed all of the family members of Nicholas II. He met a brutal end, one of the most powerful men in Russia, with a power and position. He left with nothing. But what you can learn from this is that the Romanovs should come back to Russia. That's it for this video.